Actually, Andrew Tate hires new lawyer and loses another detention hearing. That's what
Reacting to Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate's appeal for detention was rejected by the judge today. Let's talk a little bit about this case. But before we do, Tina Glandian to his legal team. I told you this was going to happen. I said he's not happy with his current situation, so he's going to try to do whatever he can to get like a rat in a cage because he's panicky and you got to get out of there, right? Now, let's just talk about this a little bit. Now, Andrew Tate has not been charged with a crime yet. Okay. He's on preventative detention, basically, because they thought he was on detention. And we don't have that here in the United States. So you get brought into court, or you get arrested. Within 36 hours, they have to bring you in front of a judge. Okay, in some states it's 48, but mostly they have to bring you in before a judge within 36 to 48 hours.
Is that an appeal?
Once they bring you in, the judge has to do one of two things. You have to be charged with a crime and then offered conditions of release. Unless it's federal, and there's certain kinds of federal crimes, and certain states favor detention on certain crimes. But you're at least charged so you can start defending yourself. So, as you know, I'm not the biggest fan of Mr. Tate, but you know what I'm not a big fan of? I'm not a big fan of preventative detention. So they extended it another 30 days. So that's 60 days he's being held in jail without bail and without even being charged with a crime. Yeah. I think that's wrong. Rough. I absolutely think that's wrong. 60 days. So he's brought this Tina Glandian, who's an international human rights lawyer, I guess. She rose to fame with Mike Tyson and Chris Brown, and others. So
capable.
They have, I guess, appealed the last detention order from the judge, and it was just denied today. So where are we at with? So let's just kind of recap what's happened to Mr. Tate. So the two of them, the two Tate brothers and the two ladies, were arrested in their Bucharest home on December 29th. So that gives you kind of a time frame about where he's at. So the next day, the court made a ruling on December 30th that they are in detention. So they appealed by January 10th, that first order of detention. Well, then on January 15th, they took all of his luxury cars. Then the judge extends their detention on January 20th, and then today the judge denied the appeal. One of the rationales the judge gave for denying the appeal was a systematic psychological control and threats of constant physical abuse of these ladies. The judge isn't just making that up. The judge is using the information he gets from the prosecutor to make that determination. He should be charged by now. He should have been offered some bail. And if he wasn't offered bail, if they were decided to detain him, like they can do in the federal system for sure, then you still have the right to have a detention hearing and to try to overcome that presumptive detention. But he's not been offered that. So, despite whatever I like or dislike, I don't like the way he's being treated. I don't like the fact that his natural human rights that we take for granted in this country. Because you have a right to bail, you have a right to have speedy proceedings, you have the right to be brought in front of a judge and face your accuser. You have all these different rights, and it doesn't seem like he's getting those rights observed. And that's one of the reasons that he brought this Tina in. This Tina Glandian, she represented Mike Tyson and Chris Brown, and she specializes in international human rights. So it probably is a good idea to bring her in, but it didn't help him. She alleged that outside pressures had an impact of the case, but she didn't say what those outside pressures were, and she indicated that the system has failed. She uses those kind of grandiose, but I think she's right, though, in all honesty. So Tina Glandian is bringing a different approach, and she's talking about, more on the grand scale of where Romania is in the grand scheme of things. So, like I said, in the United States and other countries, you're afforded certain rights, and we take those rights for granted, And those rights are, but they're the bedrock of our criminal justice system. And they're the bedrock of, England's criminal justice system and some of the other modern Western nations. So what she's doing, she's talking about the outside pressures, but she's also talking about, how Romania is part of the EU and they're trying to get into the fold, but they're not really having the same criminal rights that a defendant is supposed to have. Or they're not observing the rights that a criminal defendant is supposed to have. One of the things that the judge used, he said the capacity of the defendants to exercise permanent psychological control over the victims, including by resorting to constant acts of violence. So the judge has ordered that the detention is extended to February 27th. So that's almost 60 days. Almost 60 days without being charged.
That's a lot of days.
I just, I suppose the argument is that if he's out, he can destroy evidence, he can manipulate witnesses, that kind of thing. But we don't do it like that. We don't have, it's not Vanilla Sky. I mean, we don't do this preventative detention stuff. We just don't do it like that. When you look at the complexity of what they're dealing with, it is a big case. I mean, no matter how you slice it, you've got all kinds of different aspects to it. You've got sex trafficking, you've got sexual assault type allegations, probably some tax evasion type stuff, money laundering, and then you've got his own statements where he says he's in with kind of the mafia of Romania. So we don't know exactly what they know, but we do know that the judge has it in his head that there's a systematic control of these women, and it's focused on violence to control them. So with that said, let's look to the February 27th date and see what happens then. The Romanian authorities have said that they can ask for up to 180 days. So I can't imagine being held for 6 months without charges. So
6 months.
For those of you who are Andrew Tate fans, and I know there are a lot of you out there, I agree with you that this is an outrage that he has not been charged yet and that he has not been afforded any kind of bail argument. And the judge has reviewed his detention, but hasn't really offered him any kind of relief. And not that... And so those are the rights that we are used to. Those are the rights that we have taken for granted. Those are the bedrock principles of our criminal justice system. You're guilty only after proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, in front of a jury. Otherwise, you're presumed innocent. And I don't think he's getting that presumption. So, this has just been my quick reaction to the recent news that Andrew Tate is being held. He's being held until February 27th. They extended it another month. And he's been denied his appeal. So we'll keep following it and give it to you straight.
We'll give you updated, I guess.
We'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer React.
It was a quick news of Andrew Tate. We have other news of that February 27th, I guess. So I'm for now in this video.